This is a very experiential program. So you'll see that while there's a fair amount of talking at the very beginning, just to lay the foundation of the work we're going to be doing, the benefits of this work we've seen through research and from decades of experience comes from what people do with each other. And it's very much about empowering people to do their own work and to come up with their own answers to the challenges that they face in their lives. PAIRS Foundation started 30 years ago, just a few miles away from where we are. PAIRS stands for Practical Application of Intimate Relationship Skills. The course was originally developed as a semester-long graduate program for students at American University to help prepare future counselors to best help their clients. And just to give you a little more personal background, the class very much emerged out of my family's own life. When I was born in 1961, my mother was at really the last stages of a 17-year marriage to my dad. I'm the youngest of 4 children. They met and married after knowing each other for about 3 months. He was a law student at Cornell University and she was an undergrad. Both her parents had passed away. And they fell in love. You know, he was what she was looking for, and so was she. They fell in love, got married, and it was not a happy marriage. They both had very different ideas of what a marriage would look like. He had grown up as an only child with very specific expectations about gender roles. She had grown up, singing love songs and really with a lot of love and intimacy and nurturing. And they did their best to work it out, during good times and not so good times, and had 4 kids. But when she was pregnant with me, she went back to graduate school to try to get her degree in social work with the hope that she could find answers primarily to help her own marriage and her family. And what she found is that there were many great concepts that were taught, that there were lots of, brilliant teachers who were teaching people all sorts of great ideas and beliefs and new understandings. But the question was, what could you do with that? What could you do with that to really make a difference? And that all the concepts in the world were meaningful for conversations. But when it came to helping couples and families, they needed something that went beyond that. So the marriage did not last. She went on a 17-year journey to try to find all the answers to the questions that she and many others didn't even know to ask when it came to love and intimacy. And in the mid-70s, John Robinson of American University, he was the dean of the School of Education or Counseling, asked her to put all of that knowledge together into a course that she would teach there. So she started to teach the PAIRS course. When she called it PAIRS, PAIRS is an acronym because she wanted it to be practical. That's what the P stands for. And the A is the application. She wanted to be practical knowledge that people could apply in their lives, and specifically for intimate relationship skills. And 30 years ago, that was a revolutionary idea. Today there's more and more acceptance to the idea that there are skills that help people succeed in their marriages and families and other close relationships. But back then, the idea of teaching a class was a whole new concept, and I've watched this journey evolve over the last 30 years of going from this as a concept that had very little acceptance to today we have over 100,000 people that follow us every day on Facebook. We reach tens and tens of thousands of people throughout the world of all shapes and sizes and ethnicities and beliefs, and obviously genders and from every background imaginable. So as part of that journey that she went on, she reached out to visionaries who were doing meaningful work in various fields connected to the journey of intimacy. And there were several, she met many, and she used to bring them. We didn't have money, so she would make a deal with them. And she would bring them to the DC area and sponsor them and host their trainings if she could attend. One of the most important people she met, who became her mentor, was a woman named Virginia Satir. Anybody here heard of Virginia Satir? No. Virginia was really one of the very first in her field. She's considered the mother of family therapy. She had written a number of books in the 70s and 80s, conjoined family therapy, people making, and she had unique understandings of what was happening in the American family that really set her apart from others in the field. And what Virginia recognized is that what had shifted was the whole basis of marriage. That shift, that today researchers are all very aware of what happened. 30 years after Virginia began talking about this, researchers are very aware that the basis of marriage and family shifted in this country and other Western societies from being about security, stability, and raising children to being about meeting each other's needs for love and intimacy. Yet generations grew up with very specific models of what it looked like to be a man, to be a woman, to be a husband or a wife, and people chose from what they know, from what they knew, and you can't really expect people to do anything different. Hence, we started to see almost epidemic proportions of marriage and family breakdown. And it wasn't because there was something fundamentally broken with people or with marriages. It's just that the rules had changed. And the question of, where were people supposed to learn these new rules for sustaining love and intimacy? It didn't come out of their careers. So often what helps people succeed in their careers is not only not helpful when it comes to love and intimacy, but is often the exact opposite of what it takes to succeed in that mission and journey. So Virginia's work became a very important part of Paris, and you'll see that as the program unfolds. She also met someone named Dr. Daniel Kazra, who was a psychiatrist working with addicts in New York. He had founded or co-founded programs such as Synanon and Daytop Village and Ariba, and he was having successes that very few people in the field were having. Many people had short-term successes, but his long-term success became a subject of much interest in the field of psychiatry and psychology. And his concept of what was underneath the symptoms that were showing up through a lot of behavioral issues became the foundation of our work. And I'll talk more about that later, but that has to do with, are we getting our needs for bonding met? And the idea of bonding is a biologically based need, that there's a human need that many people don't even recognize they have, and that so much of what we treat and see and experience in the world are symptoms of people not getting their needs met, needs that they weren't even aware that they had. And that if you treated the behaviors, the issues, without addressing the underlying factor, it was going to be at best a short-term contribution to someone's life. And then she met someone named George Bach. And George Bach had just gone around the country interviewing murderers in prisons. And what he found is that the far majority of them had murdered someone they had once loved. That it wasn't that they were, evil, psychopathic people. It was that in a moment in time, something snapped. Maybe for a split second, out of the millions, maybe billions of seconds in somebody's life. And what he realized from his experience is that if you didn't teach people skills to deal with the range of emotions constructively, to understand emotions in ourselves and the people we're closest to, then nobody was really safe. Because anybody could do the things that he had seen the people he interviewed do. So his work on negotiating conflict, understanding emotions, being able to have in ourselves and others, having constructive releases for those emotional experiences became a very important part of Paris Together. So she put that together into a course at American University, and what she found very quickly is students started asking her to bring their significant others. That the course was not only helping them in terms of preparing them for their professions, but they wanted it for their own lives. So after seeing that, she brought it into a private practice called the Family Relations Institute, which was over at Skyline Center over in Alexandria. Alexandria. She also worked out of our house in Falls Church much of the time. And she began offering a course, a semester-long 120-hour course that would meet generally one Tuesday night a week and one full weekend a month over 4 months. And it was led by mental health professionals, but it was education. There was no diagnosis. There was no, treatment plan. There was no labeling or pathologizing people. There was nothing like that. It was a beginning to end skills training. The answers to all the questions that people didn't even need to know the questions for. And what she found is that for the most part, people who had spent years in therapy discovered how to be their own counselors and therapists. They discovered that they not only could work through the challenges of their lives, but as they did that together, their experience of intimacy, of love, of acceptance was so much greater than when they did that in any other way.